Hey guys, so today we're going to be exploring how to find probability. All right, so if any of you guys remember when we were working with dice last year, um, just a reminder, when we have one, we call it die, and then the plural form is dice. Okay, one die. All right, so let's take it back to last year. What do you guys remember about finding probability? Okay, so I know when people say when you flip a coin, what is the probability? And a lot of you guys say it's a 50-50 chance, right? Because there's two sides. Or sometimes on the weather, they go, there's a 15% chance of rain today. So that is all probability. Okay, so let's begin. So what is probability? Probability is just a number, percent, fraction, or decimal that shows how likely an event will occur. Okay, so let's look at how likely. So here we have 0 and we have 1. These are the numbers we're going to be working with for this entire chapter. And if it's half of it, it's 1/2. Okay, so in decimal form we have zero point 0.5, and then in fraction form, it's 50%. And then as for 1, we have 1 and 100%, and then 0 is obviously 0. So anytime something is certain, it's 100%. So for example, tomorrow, there's a 100% chance that we have school because it's Monday, right? Any For 0%, impossible means it can't happen. For example, um, there is a 0% chance that you guys are going to PCC today because you're not allowed to. So anything in the middle, we call it as likely as not, and we use the word likely when we're talking about probability. So from 50% to 100, we say likely, and then from 0 to 50%, we say it is unlikely. Okay? And that's just pretty much the basis of what you have to know with using likely and unlikely. Okay, so let's have like some scenarios going on. Gerard has 20 M&Ms in a jar and there's 4 reds, 8 blues, 3 browns, and 5 oranges. Question number 1 says, what is the probability of selecting a red M&M? So red is right here. So let's start with our fraction form. Before we even begin, there's a formula when calculating probability. P event equals number of favorable outcomes over total possible outcomes. So this is really easy. It looks confusing, but it's not. So the reason why we use P is for probability. So let's start with our event. What is our event? It's basically what they're asking. So the probability of getting red equals, and you just have to look, what is the favorable outcome? We know it's 4. So 4 over, and our total possible outcomes is 20. And there you go, guys. But we know we can never leave it as a fraction that's not simplified. So our answer is 1/5. Okay, so now that we have fraction, let's do percent and decimal. So we know when we did ratio, um, back like last year, we used something called a scale factor, and we tried to figure out how to get from 5 to 100, or figure out what do we multiply to make the fractions equal. So our scale factor here is 20, right? 5 times 20. So what we do on the top, bottom, we do on the top. So our fraction equals 20 over 100, meaning our percent is 20%. Once we have our percent, we can find our decimal, which is zero point 0.2 or 0.20. 2/10 or 20 hundredths. Okay? And that is all you have to do, guys, to find probability. So let's have another situation. Kobu's game board has 16 tiles. There are 6 black tiles and the rest are white. So what is the probability of selecting a white tile? Okay, so here we have probability of getting white is, let's look how many we have white. We have 10. And our denominator is our total outcome, which is 16. So let's just reduce our fraction by 2. Our fraction is 5/8. Okay, easy stuff. Now let's move on to our percent and our decimal. So 5/8 equals what over 100? So when we did ratio, we had to cross multiply and do this whole formula, but we don't have to do that. We can just solve it normally. So in order to find how or what number is over 100, the percent, you just have to divide 5, the numerator, by the denominator. So we take 5 divided by 8, and there you go. So we know 8 can't go into 5, so that's where our decimals come in. So 8 can go into 50 6 times, which is 48. 50 minus 48 is 2. Bring down our 0. 8 can go into 20 twice, which is 16. Okay, let's go one more time. And the reason why we want 3 is that we can determine if we need to round up or not. So 8 can go into 45 times. We have no denominator. So now our decimal is 0.625, but we really just want to keep it at two numbers. So we know we just have to round this number up because this number is 5. So our decimal is 0.63. There you go. So once we have our decimal, we can just quickly find our percentage, which is 63%. Okay? Is everyone following along? All right, so let's do one more situation. So in this scenario, we are using a die, which is just one dice. Okay? You have a six-sided die. What is the probability of that number being less than 4? So our answer of probability or event is a number less than 4. In this case, you can write n is less than 4. So let's count. Okay, so we're going to do all the numbers less than 4 on the dice. So we have 1, 2, and 3. 4 doesn't count because that's equal to 4. So we have 3 numbers over our total, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our fraction is 1/2. And that's easy. 1/2 is easy. We know it's 50%, and our decimal is 0.5 or 0.50. Okay, let's do one more. What is the probability that the number is showing 6? Okay, so obviously we know that there's only one number that's 6, so it's 1/6. Okay, so now let's go back to what we just did on the last slide. We're going to divide 1 by 6. Okay, so we know that we have to put 0.0 there. 6 can go into 10 one time, so bring down the 0. So 6 can go into 46 times, which is 36. Okay, so we have a pattern. So we know it's going to be 1.6666 all the way. So for that, we can put 1.66 with a line going there, or we can just round this one up, which I prefer, to make it 0.17. Okay, which our percent is 17%. And there you have it, kids. That is how you find probability. So on your homework 2 weeks ago, I was okay with this when you guys are finding your nets. Not this week. I really need you guys to just show me how you're solving. There's really only 10 questions, okay? Approved. So be sure to show how you solved. You can show your work on the corner and make sure you're just using that Nelson page to help you. Okay, so let's look here on your Nelson link. So here we have the number 1. And if you notice, you're just going to have a bunch of problems here. Some of these you can just solve normally, but you're going to have to reduce some of these fractions, okay? And as for tomorrow as well, now you're going to be working with percents and decimals, okay? But let's just focus on today's homework, which is 12.1. Okay, guys, that is all I have for today. Message me if you have any help or if you need any help, and I am here always. Bye, guys.